one of the key skills, right? Women learn even as they're raising their families, they're running their households, is project management, right? And that is one of the most important when I come to technology, right? That is one of the most important skills needed to make any technology project successful. So honing into that experience is just, I think, a phenomenal opportunity that we cannot miss, right? The life experience, there is no substitute for the life experience. And then you match that by training women who want to return back and now be an important part of that workforce, is a phenomenal and untapped opportunity that we should not miss out on. I would absolutely say, start those programs within your organization. Even if you start with like 5 women that want to come back, create it as a test, and you will see the results yourself, right? They're going to speak for themselves.
I discovered eyeshadows at a very dark time in my life, and I found them very cathartic and therapeutic. So my student had suggested that, why don't I, make a video where I talk about history while doing, eye makeup. And I thought that sounded like an interesting idea. And I did my first episode on 30th April 2022. And I thought that the response at that point in time was very decent. I first started making videos in English because, my entire education has been in English. So anytime I, want to talk about history, I, automatically as a reflex reach out to English. But I realized, within 6 months' time that if I want to sort of expand and want to reach the people who really matter and who really need this sort of education, then I must switch to Hindi Urdu. That's when this decision, was taken. So in 2023 itself, I started doing videos in Hindi Urdu. And I think the channel has actually grown a lot since then. So
And
that's how the idea actually came about.
As well, both our parents, very much stressed all about, having a good education, and, then and then gender comes second. And that's what, our primary focus was. We never thought that, gender could be a problem or something like this until we stepped out in the real world. Yeah. It was slight.
when did the reality hit?
When we started our company, that's when it started to hit us. Yeah, not from vendors. Sometimes, when we would initially, we did not have a sales team, so we would go out, we still do, but we would go to different vendors, meet them, at their offices, sometimes at their homes, and this and that. It was a little bit, tricky, because there are a lot of security reasons, and Pakistani families are not too keen about that as well. So we would share our live location to each other, that okay, we are going there with this vendor and on the first floor of this building, and things like that. We didn't face any major problem, thank goodness, but we did face some resistance that, oh, tiny girls are coming into our office and asking for our business, why should we listen to them? Yeah, that was there was this whole aura with us.
But how did you navigate that kind of a complicated remark?
I guess confidence, does come with time as well. Initially, we were too, just excited about the product, and we realized nobody wants to hear about your features. They just want to know about the benefits. So go to the vendors, leave everything behind. Just talk about how your product can benefit them. That's how we changed the narrative.
I was a part of a competition that was for up and coming commentators, and I took part in that. And obviously, I love to talk about cricket, so I just thought, maybe I should talk about cricket and make something out of it. So I was part of that competition. I didn't end up winning it. I ended up as the runners up. But that's basically where the whole journey started. I got a couple of gigs as a presenter, as a commentator, and I've been working as a presenter and commentator for a while now. But it all changed. You were talking about big leaps. So the biggest leap that I took was at the start of this year, when I was approached to run the platform that I'm running right now, that goes by the name of Grassroots Cricket. It's a domestic platform. It covers, cricket digitally, in domestic cricket and international cricket related to Pakistan. So I've been leading that platform for about 7-8 months now. I started at the very beginning of this year, and that was the big leap. And the second big leap came just like, I guess, a week ago, when I was approached by the owner of Multan, Sultans. He was the one who asked me if I wanted to take up this mantle of a general manager. And although I understand that I'm not someone who has a lot of management experience in terms of this industry. Although I have a lot of management experience, I am a certified project manager, but maybe not for a franchise team. But he has the belief that I can pull this off. So I just basically have to second him on that. And I took this responsibility. I only had to think about it for a minute, and I said yes. So yeah, and here we are. So a long way to go. We'll have to see where all this ends up, but I'm really, really hopeful that it will be great for the franchise and also for a lot of women moving forward in the country as well. And I would say that it might not happen within the PSL, but there've been talks about conducting a women's PSL, a separate league, but just for the women's, just like a women IPL that you have, or a women's big bag league that you have, every year. So something like that, a league that is based and centered just around our women cricketers, and you can invite foreign cricketers from the world to come and play in Pakistan in front of our audiences, so they can know what kind of caliber, what kind of ability the women cricketers around the world possess. And also I think it will give a huge boost to our young lot as well, the one that's playing right now, the under-19 girls and everyone. If they share dressing rooms with players of that caliber, that from England, from West Indies, from Australia, you have some wonderful women cricketers around the world. They'll get a chance to get mentored by them, and what's better than that for their development? So I feel like women's PSL should be a priority at this moment. It's happening in the world. I think Pakistan should step up and take that initiative sooner rather than later, because absolutely you need that. And if you want Pakistan women's team to do well on international level, they need that kind of exposure and those kind of facilities and that kind of backing that the rest of the teams get from their cricket boards respectively.
And it's very interesting you mentioned the word woman journalist. I certainly never thought of that aspect, at least, whether it makes a difference for me to be a woman journalist or some other journalist. I just thought of myself as a journalist, maybe because of the kind of education that I was given while growing up, the kind of family upbringing I was given by my parents, and also the social environment I grew up in. We were told, or I was told, and like many of my peers, to just go for it. There was nothing like, you're a girl, you can't do this, or you're a woman, you can stay at home or do something minor. For me, the sky is the limit. And my mother always said, go for it if you want it. So I tried what I wanted to do. I came into the TV station after I won an international public speaking competition. And I was a news anchor for immediately afterwards. And I did news presenting for 10 years. Then I said, okay, I'm bored of that. I wanted to see the world. So I went to Switzerland, as you said, to be an overseas correspondent. And again, being a woman never held me back. As a matter of fact, I think being a woman gave me some soft touches, let's say, when I was going for a difficult story. For instance, when I was looking for interviewees after major terrorist attacks, I think the fact that I was approaching from a very soft and very compassionate perspective made people open up to me. So I thought it was a great experience. In terms of limitations, of course, there were the physical limitations, but I tell you, Usama, you've been in the news business for many years, I guess. And nowadays, there is nothing holding back the women. The female cameramen, for instance, they can carry very heavy equipment, camera, tripods, live views, and they run as fast as their male counterparts. So it's amazing what females can do in this career. And I'm very privileged that I've been given this opportunity. On top of that, I would like to say that although being a female did not prevent me from doing my job, I do see limitations as a human being, and that's what I constantly strive to overcome. For instance, our limitations, and I keep thinking of that because we all try to do a better job, but what's holding us back? I think these are common things. I don't know about you. For me, for instance, old habits, lack of knowledge, prejudice, even the lack of vocabulary sometimes because I'm speaking a foreign language, and vulnerability, negativity, impatience, even egoism, all of that constantly try to prevent us from doing a better job. So today, as much as 25 years ago, I'm still finding it very challenging, and there is still always a lot to be learned and a lot to build on what I've already been able to accomplish. And it's an exciting journey as always.
I think migration is one of the most significant issues of this moment in time. We are seeing it play out across the world, right, politically, as well as in terms of the movement of people. And from where I sit, it's actually a moment where we can do tremendous good. I see, frankly, the stars aligning in terms of various forces in the world, right? So you think about it, we have millions of people who are on the move today, a range of people moving because of conflict, because of climate change, because of poverty. But we also have a moment in time where there are economies across the world that are experiencing labor shortages, right? 30 of the top economies did not have enough labor this year. Cost them $1.3 trillion, right? So there's this moment where we can begin to align the movement of people with opportunities, which ultimately will result in better outcomes for everyone.
We celebrated 35th anniversary in 2018, and that time, Chevening Secretariat launched a sort of campaign, and they identified Changemaker from across the globe, 35 Changemaker from across the globe to mark 35th anniversary. And from countries where there were like one, there were none. From Pakistan, there were 2 female scholars, those who were identified as changemakers. One was Amna Zamir, who's first female judge from Gilgit-Baltistan.
Interesting.
And Rabia Akhtar, who's running an organization with the name Special Talent Exchange Program. And mashallah, they have created an impact in the society, and they are benefiting people with, Rabia is working to benefit people with disability, with special needs, and Amna is working, exceptionally good in her area, which is judiciary.
So for 1.5 years after my graduation from IR discipline, I was a Serena sales coordinator, sold rooms in Serena properties, even overbooked some Serena properties, had immense learning. And then 9/11 happened, and a lot of foreign journalists and entities came to Pakistan. And I worked with CBS TV and USA Today as a fixer, translated news for them, took them to the rallies, had my first tear gas experience. So that working environment and the global dynamics of it, pushed me to do another master's. So I went to the US again. I did a political science master's. And in that, I wrote a thesis looking at Pakistan's motivations and intentions of becoming a nuclear weapon state. So that was the first time really when in 2002, 2003, when I actually interacted with that subject. Then I came back to Pakistan, and my first teaching was at Fatma Jinnah Women's University. I was the head of the Department for Defense and Diplomatic Studies back then. And for several years, I did that. Again, not very much into the nuclear subject, but learning, and that was the beginning, I think. Then in 2007, I left Fatma Jinnah to join the Strategic Plans Division as the first female civilian research consultant that they hired in order to set up the civilian research program, which is now in its 15th year. And I take immense pride that a lot of people who joined that program have brought a lot of enriching experience to SPD's own expertise. The public outreach, the face that they have with the public is because of that program. Then I went back to Fatma Jinnah. I got a Fulbright scholarship for my PhD. And then in 2010, I left for Kansas State University, was there for 5 years. Again, that's the time when I literally, got into the heart and soul of the subject of non-proliferation. And, worked in presidential archives, worked in congressional archives, got to learn a lot, wrote the thesis, came back. And in 2015, I came to Lahore, settled in, got a job at University of Lahore. And then that's when I established the center. And a year later, in 2016, established the School of Integrated Social Sciences. And the rest is history, as they say.